Call the regular St. Dimas City Council meeting to order. This meeting is under special instructions based on the governor's order, but we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pursuant to the governor's executive order, we are conducting this city council meeting with the council chambers closed to the public. We also have two council members who are participating by telephone, and they are on the telephone and will respond at the appropriate time. We also have changed rules for public participation. For that would be the public comments. Number one, if we have given people, the agenda gives people the opportunity to communicate by email with the city clerk, and all of the emails that have been received up to this point, if any, will be brought up at the appropriate time during the public comment agenda. It's my understanding we have received no emails. That's correct? Okay. We also have arranged that members of the audience may call in to make a comment during oral communications or on a specific agenda item as it's being heard. The call-in number is 909-394-6206, and the call, in order to be taken, needs to be during the time, sometime before the closure of the public comment on that agenda item. We'll call on the city attorney if you have any comments regarding any other special procedures that we'll be following this evening.
Sure, Mayor, thank you. I did just want to state for the public that the legal basis for operating the meeting this way, and that is, as we all know, that under the Brown Act, under normal circumstances, it does require the city council chambers to be open to the public and for members of the public to be here physically and give input and comment to the council on all the agenda items on the agenda. But due to the public health emergency that we're all experiencing right now in California and across the country and the world, the governor has issued an executive order, as you referenced, suspending portions of the Brown Act so that the government can go on and city council meetings can be held without bringing together a gathering of more than 10 people, which is prohibited currently in the county of Los Angeles. So we are holding this meeting pursuant to the governor's executive order. It allows the council members to hold a teleconference meeting, entirely teleconferenced, or to hold a meeting in person physically like we're doing, but not have members of the audience present and allow members of the audience to give input and comments on the agenda items through a phone method or an email method. And given that the governor has suspended those portions of the Brown Act, that is entirely legal today. And we also have two council members calling in on the phone and not appearing in person. That's also allowed by the governor's executive order.
Thank you. City Manager, do you have any comments?
No, just again to clarify, if there are members of the public who would like to call in under oral communications, call in via the phone number that we provided, and that we have the ability to put people in a queue so that we'll be transferring those calls in as the calls come in. At the end of the oral communications, we will suspend taking any phone calls, and then at the second oral communications at the end of the meeting, we'll have the same procedure. And based upon the fact that there are a couple of council members who are calling in, any action that the council will be taking should be on a voice vote. Is that correct, City Attorney?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. So that, and there are a couple of items when we get to the consent calendar that we will be pulling from the consent calendar for various reasons. So we'll address those when that time comes.
Well, we will be starting with oral communications. Members of the audience are invited to address the city council on any item and not on the agenda. And under the provision of the Brown Act, the body is prohibited from taking or engaging in discussion on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. However, you may make comments and we may. Okay. Hope everybody heard. Anyway, that's the, we are now opening the oral communications. If anybody is on the phone, would like to participate in oral communications, now is the time. Do we have any phone calls? We have no phone calls, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, I have been informed that we are removing item C, which is the award of a construction contract for separate discussion. Are there other items we are removing for a separate discussion?
Yes, we will be actually removing item F, which is the annual housing element report. There were elements of the report that were not included in the agenda packet, so we will be taking that item up at your next agenda.
Okay. Well, why don't we, before we take the items that are approved, why don't we take item C, the award of the construction contract 2020-2, Bonita Avenue Signal Synchronization Project. Do you have a report on that, or does the person, the council member who asked for it to be removed,
Yeah, I asked.
ready to make a comment?
Yeah, Councilman Ebner asked to actually just ask some questions regarding that item, so that's the reason that's being removed from the consent agenda.
Okay, then we will take the other items on the consent agenda, and that will be all the items listed in the agenda except for C and F. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and second to approve. Any discussion by any of the members in the room? Any discussion by the members on the telephone? Okay, we will now vote, and we do need an affirmative.
I think we're having a technical problem there.
Welcome to WebEx. Enter your access code or meeting number.
Yeah, we actually have a technical difficulty, so we have to reconnect the council members who are online, so if we can just hold off for a minute.
Sure.
Followed by pound.
Apologize, we had a little technical difficulty. Are you able to hear us now? Hello?
Can you hear us yet?
Yeah. Okay. Hi, John. Looks like Emmett.
Hey, John.
Emmett dropped. Emmett's call got dropped. Can you reach out?
Can they hear me in the chambers now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, great.
So we have John on the line. Emmett's call got dropped there. We're waiting for Emmett to call us back in.
Okay.
Emmett, are you with us again?
I'm here.
Okay. Emmett back.
Okay, at what point did we lose them? Before we made the motions?
Yes.
Okay, then we'll go back to the point of the consideration of the consent agenda. We are dealing with all the items on the consent agenda with the exception of item C and item F. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda with those exceptions?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and second. Is there any other discussion by members who are present in the room. Any discussion by members who are on the telephone?
No.
Okay, then, all in favor of the motion to approve the items A, B, D, and E on the consent agenda signify by saying aye. And we actually need to have each person, we need to do this as a roll call, I believe.
Councilmember Badar. Councilmember Badar.
Aye.
Councilmember Bertone.
Aye.
Councilmember Ebner.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Viana.
Aye.
Mayor Morris.
Aye.
That signifies a 5-0 vote.
Thank you. Okay, next we'll take up item C, the award of the construction contract. And I'll call on the city manager to discuss that matter.
Yeah, as I mentioned, Councilmember Ebner had some questions regarding that, so I'd like to call on him to ask the specific questions, and Sherry Garwood can answer those questions.
Sure. Just quick question. I was wondering, with that construction, are we able to prepare or do anything for future extension of the Wi-Fi along Bonita Avenue? Wi-Fi along Bonita Avenue.
Good evening. The project is for it's a traffic signal synchronization project. So the specifications do not call for a Wi-Fi. However, as with any of our projects, we provide additional capacity. So there is additional capacity in this project, and that could provide infrastructure for a Wi-Fi. In order to provide the Wi-Fi project, we would have to do a design and add additional equipment, such as power. But the conduit that's installed with this project will support additional Wi-Fi capacity.
So you could actually do the wires through the conduit, is what you're saying, and then in the future we could add whatever else we needed for Wi-Fi?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know. Just wanted to make sure we weren't, doing a big project and having to dig everything up another time.
Yes. Understood.
Okay, fantastic. Great.
Are there any other questions about item or comments about item E? Item C.
How is the gold line going to affect this?
The gold line, the project actually goes through the Cataract Bonita intersection.
Right.
And when they do their construction, they will connect to this project on either side of their right-of-way. So they will essentially extend it. We'll go from Bonita at Arrow to Cataract, essentially the right-of-way. We'll stop at the right-of-way, and then we'll start again at the other side of the right-of-way and go all the way to San Dimas Canyon Road. And when the gold line comes in, they will complete the conduit, and then we'll pull the fiber once the conduit's been installed in the right-of-way, the gold line right-of-way.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have a motion to approve item E?
Item what?
Item C, pardon me.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and second to approve item C. Any further discussion? Okay.
Any further discussion?
Technology is not great. Would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Badar.
Yes.
Councilmember Bertone.
Aye.
Aye.
Councilmember Ebner. Councilmember
You said
Ebner.
Ebner, yes. Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Viana.
Aye.
Mayor Morris.
Aye.
Signifies a 5-0 vote.
Thank you. That concludes the consent Calendar, other business. We have a status report on the emergency response continuity of operation plan for local government. We're calling the city manager.
Yes, thank you. Obviously, these last 2 weeks have been very fluid as far as the city's response to the COVID-19 virus emergency. So we thought we would take this opportunity to update the council and the community as far as what the city's current status is as far as providing services to the community and our operations plan. We have been in a emergency operations status for the last 10 days. Staff has been meeting multiple times a day to assess our current operations and delivery of service to the community. We've been updating that information on the city's website and our social media platforms just to let the community know what service delivery we can provide as far as the city. So the most important thing to emphasize to the community is that the city is fully operational, or is operational, providing emergency services. And that we are abiding by the county and the state orders, which were issued on March 16th and 19th, and also amended on March 21st in regards to the Safer at Home order in place orders. As a city, we are emergency essential service providers, so our staff is working and attempting to provide the emergency services that are the essential function of a city operation. And we are also trying to enforce social distancing with all of our facilities and our operations. I think the most important function that the city is providing is public safety. So I think as to start off with this report, I'd like to call on Captain Andy Berg from the Sheriff's Department to provide a report as far as what the Sheriff's Department is doing at this time as far as providing public safety to our community.
Good evening, council members and residents. Just like to start by saying that our ability to operate has not been impacted. So far, there's been no negative health effects, no employees impacted by the coronavirus. We continue to be operating at full capacity, and in fact, because of supplemental patrols that were made possible by bringing in people from other divisions. We have court deputies and detectives from other places that are working with our deputies out there. We do have extra people on the street 7 days a week. A lot of that is just to provide a level of comfort and higher visibility and the potential to respond to things should we need to. Things are changing daily, and there are constant updates, but I think that most of those have been made public. The most recent one that may affect us, a lot of people commented on the amount of traffic on the Antonovich Trail this past weekend. The county announced this morning that all the county trails would be closed. Many of the county parks remain open, and the outdoor restrooms remain open during the day, but those trails and a lot of county facilities are closed. Other than that, I'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Anyone have any questions of Captain Berg?
I do. Do we have, out of curiosity, just seeing some of the things going on locally with businesses being vacant and things like that, do we have extra patrols also on early mornings or during those times where we seem to have issues with property crime?
Yes, we've adjusted some people to work those later hours and definitely concentrating on some of those areas. I really don't think it's something that has so far been different than anything that's been going on the last year or two as far as crime that we've seen. There were a couple of commercial burglaries earlier this week. Unfortunately, they're the kind of thing that we have seen a few times over the past year, and we do have some suspect information on that. So, but there are extra people out there.
Are the county services, deputies or Parks Bureau, staffing any differently at the parks? I mean, I know we closed the trails at this point, but I think our city is unique that we literally have the Canyon Park at the top, and then we have Benelli, and we have the Antonovich Trail. We actually have quite a bit of a county park operation in the city here.
Their staffing is about the same. It's a little bit increased because I know they have more of their internal personnel and detectives and things that are out in the field more. Operationally, they've done things like we have and put all of our people in uniform. So if they're not in the field, they're able to respond immediately.
And are our volunteers on patrol or reserves who are usually extremely active, are we still seeing participation by that group, especially with the patrol checks, I guess, for folks? Are we using that?
The volunteers on patrol are helping us with some more passive things. Just for health concerns, we're not mingling our personnel as much. So they're helping on things where they can. The reserves have definitely been a big part of our additional visibility this past weekend, and I know that we'll be calling on them a lot in the next few weeks.
And lastly, last week you talked about, or I think it was last week, it's been a long few days. We talked about the station at the desk. You offered up being able to dispatch units for welfare checks and things like that. Have we seen requests for that? And
that's going well. We've had about a dozen requests for specific checks on people that are shut in and can't get out. Those have been very well received, and they appreciate getting phone calls and visits.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I mentioned our focus right now is, as a city, is trying to continue to provide the essential services to the community. And what we mean by that is that our public works, our parks, and our facility staff are out in the community trying to make sure that we are providing those services. If there's, for example, we had rains the other night, if there was storm damage, our staff was able to go out and take care of those situations. If we have issues, traffic collisions, traffic signal issues, our staff is available right now to be able to provide those services. Our facilities are, for the most part, closed to the public. We closed our senior center and our recreation center about 10 days ago. Last week, we closed our City Hall lobby to public traffic. Again, we're trying to adhere to the county and the state's social distancing orders. However, we are providing services. We have phone numbers available that we're putting out to the community. If they have specific questions about city services, they can call in. We have staff that will be manning those phones and being able to answer those questions. However, the public is not permitted into our public facilities. We also feel that one of our most essential public services is to provide public information out to the community. So we are providing, considering ourselves a kind of a clearinghouse of information. So we're trying to push out factual information that we get from our partnering agencies, whether they be the County Library Service and other community organizations, as far as what services that they're providing, as well as information from County Health Department and the county itself and the state, so that we can provide public information to the community. We're pushing out information in real time, so if people continue to check our website, and we also have our Twitter and our Facebook accounts, that we're pushing out information as that information becomes available. And then we are doing a press release at the end of the day that kind of summarizes all the new information that we have been gathering throughout the day, and we're putting that information out again on our website and all of our social media platforms. I should mention, going back to public safety, I forgot that we are in constant contact with the fire department. I received an email from Assistant Chief Inman this afternoon, and their operations are continuing as normal. Obviously, they have additional protective measures for their employees, but as far as their deployment of services, that has not changed from their normal operations. The other thing that we're trying to keep on top of is contacting the local grocery stores as far as their hours of operation, and if they have any accommodations for seniors or public safety. And we're trying to put that out on our website so that people can know what that information is. But again, that changes on a daily basis. We also, one of the big issues that the captain had touched on as far as park access and availability, and that changes on a very regular basis. But what we're trying to do is mirror what the county park system operations are, in that as of right now, playgrounds, and this is a directive from the state, is our playgrounds and public facilities are closed, which includes hard surfaces on parks, basketball courts and the like. However, our parks are not closed. They're open to the public. As of right now, our restrooms in our parks are open to the public. Our trail system, as of this afternoon, when the county changed their directive, our trail system will be closed. But we are trying to encourage people, just like the county is, for people to get out and to recreate utilizing a social distancing philosophy, but to get out, use the green spaces in the parks, walk, hike, and recreate. And so we're modeling that. However, that has changed in the last 12 hours, and so that may be subject to change as far as our availability of our park facilities, but as of now, our parks are still open.
What about the Macatanovich Trail?
That is closed. That's a county trail, and the county has closed all of their trail systems. So it was actually this morning they were open, but as of 4 o'clock this afternoon, they closed all their public trails. The other thing that we're very acute to is our senior meal delivery program. And so maybe if I can call on Hector Kistman, our Parks and Recreation Director, to update the public as far as what we're doing as far as our senior meal delivery program.
Thank you, Ken, members of the City Council, Mr. Mayor. The lunch program tomorrow will be serving about 110 lunches. Not serving lunches, but having lunches there for people to take out. This is double what we had last week, so we see this growing in popularity. So we have been in contact with additional service providers to see if there are ways of getting more meals out to those folks who may be shut-ins. So we have called Meals on Wheels and another service provider to see if they are willing to do that. We're also looking at a local nonprofit charity group that's in Monrovia that does have lots of meals that they can provide, and then we would just need to coordinate for that delivery of that. And so we do believe that as we get more into this, with the help of the sheriffs and their contacts and outreach, that we may be finding more people who will be needing the service. So we have contacted the service provider who provides the food to the Intervale program through the YWCA, and they have assured us that they have no limits on how much food they can continue to put out. So like we've seen it double since last week, we'll keep monitoring and see how much it'll grow by next week.
Are you open 5 days a week?
This is only on Wednesdays, but they pack enough for 5 meals.
They pack enough for 5 meals.
The other thing that we're working on is we're coordinating with local food banks. And I know that the Fairplex on Friday, there was a major announcement that the Fairplex is coordinating with the county as far as providing their facilities for various uses. One of those would be a drive-through food bank delivery service, which I think will be starting in about 2 weeks, I think the beginning of April. So we're trying to make sure that we have that contact information with that organization and other food banks, and we're trying to dovetail in with what the captain was talking about as far as making contact with shut-ins who may need food services, and being able to partner with some of these food bank organizations or Meals on Wheels or food delivery services so that we can try and provide those services. Along those lines also, there's a member of our Public Safety Commission who has volunteered to be a volunteer coordinator to reach out to volunteer organizations and faith-based organizations within our community so that we can actually try and pair up volunteer services with the needs. Right now, he's actually done a lot of work as far as making contacts with those volunteer organizations. So we're trying to position ourselves that if there's a need for further assistance by our residents that we can have volunteers available to be able to provide that service. The other thing that we're, one of our essential services is that we're trying to support the construction industry and the public utilities as far as providing inspection services for their continued projects that they're working on right now. There are a number of utilities that have construction projects which are essential, that we're providing the field services to inspect those. Any projects that are construction projects that are currently in operation right now, we're trying to continue to provide the inspection services necessary for those construction projects to continue to move forward. We are not taking any new applications for any new construction projects unless they are utility related and they are life safety related. So we're trying to continue with those operations as well. There has been some confusion over the last several days regarding the governor had an order that went into effect last week regarding evictions of residents and commercial properties. And the order was that cities could adopt local restrictions as far as not allowing any landlords to evict tenants who may be delinquent in their rent, whether it's residential or commercial. The city to date has not adopted those types of restrictions. We are looking at that, and that might be something that we bring back to the council in the future. However, we are very cognizant of the fact that there are issues from a tenant standpoint as well as a landlord standpoint, and so we don't want to adopt something that will be negatively impacting both of those parties or either of those parties. So we want to be very judicious in how we evaluate that, but we are starting to take a look at that process as well. A lot of the questions that I think are out in the community right now have to do with the orders that define what is an essential business and which businesses can continue to operate. The county and the state have aligned what their definitions are, what those essential businesses are, but in some regards those are vague. And so the enforcing body for those making that definition is still the county health department. So we have businesses that are contacting us saying, should my business be closing? Am I essential business? Should I be open? We're referring all of those inquiries to the county health department. We don't feel that we are in the position of making those determinations as far as what is an essential business and what is not. So that is a big question that I know that's still lingering out there. When I talk about our essential services that we provide, we have to overlay that with the fact that we have a very limited amount of employees. And our employees are, though we do not have any employee that has been tested positive for the virus, we do have employees who are following the directives of the state, that if they are sick, that they are staying home. We have employees who have child care or are caring for are primary caregivers of elderly people. Some of those are modifying their work schedule to stay home. So we are providing these services based upon the ability of our staff to be available. Our protocol right now is that our staff currently is required to report to work unless they are in one of those conditions where they're ill or they have caregiver issues that they have to abide by. So it is fluid. There may be situations where we have a particular service where we don't have the employees to provide that service because there's a specific skill that we maybe have to suspend some of those services for a certain period of time because we don't have the staffing available. And this changes on a day-to-day basis. So we are, again, trying to provide those services, but also being cognizant that we have a limited staff available to do that. So that kind of is an update as far as our operations and our ability to provide services. So I think this would be a good opportunity for me to take any questions that you might have.
I might just add, Ken, on the issue of the evictions, you really don't have to worry about that because the courts are not operating.
Well,
and an eviction requires a court order, requires a trial, and there are going to be no trials in the next 2 months. So
And the Sheriff's Department is the agency that would actually enforce eviction notices, and they have taken the position that they would not be, not be enforcing eviction notices. But
Any questions of Ken of his report?
Emmett?
Go ahead, Emmett.
Ken, this is Emmett.
yeah,
Ken, as our conversation the other day with Larry Giannone, he requested a city email address so he could be communicated with.
Yep.
How is that going?
that's already in place, so that's already in place, and that's operational for him.
That's already in place, and that's operational for him.
Okay, can we put that out there so anyone who wants to volunteer can get a hold of him?
Yeah, I know that he's already pushed out that information to all the volunteer contacts that he's made.
Okay.
John, I don't know if we can get a question through with the echo, but can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me? If you could, okay. I was just wondering on the parks. Well, first of all, thanks for all the updates. The press releases are great. Good to see them every day. But I was just wondering about on the parks. Are like the skate park, Lily Field, and dog parks? Are those still open?
Yeah. Just a question, for the call-in, the echoing, do you have like your TV on right now that you're monitoring? And I think maybe that's what the echo-in is on the delay. John, is that?
I think maybe that echo-in is on the delay.
Okay.
Turn the volume up.
Okay, I'm sorry. Just in response to your question, the dog park is open, but all of the hard court surfaces, the skate park, like I said, basketball courts, and those types of facilities, if we're mirroring what the county is doing right now, those types of facilities are closed. Yeah, that includes ball fields as well.
All right. Yep. I just think we should be in alignment with the county's orders,
Yep.
but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and that is in alignment with the county orders right now.
Okay.
Any other questions of Ken?
So I do have a couple questions. Thank you, first off, for the updates that have been coming out pretty regularly online. I appreciate that. I've gotten positive comments and feedback with regards to that. The information related to the grocers is helpful. People have been very appreciative of that, as well as the establishment of hours for seniors throughout the community and others with DAFN issues. So those are important things, and I appreciate all the work staff's doing on that. Have we looked at, with regards to Larry and that discussion, in the safety element, which I don't see pandemic anywhere in our safety element to start, so maybe we can add that in our next exercise with this. But when the council started in Public Safety Commission in 2015 with the Community Emergency Response Team, and we got Larry on board, this was a scenario that group was envisioned one day to help with. And I think that the city, the sheriff's department, the fire department put a lot of stake and a lot of time and effort into training people and giving them a fundamental understanding of ICS. I think there's an opportunity here to leverage that group. So my question is, what specific missions is the city intending perhaps to give to Larry and any community or faith-based organization that they'd be coming online, I guess?
At this point, the only I put Larry in contact with the Sheriff's Department as far as the shut-in contact information to see if there's a role that they can play in that. But right now, there's not a specific role that has been identified. What Larry's been working on over the last 3 or 4 days is making contact with all the volunteer organizations and faith-based groups to make sure that we have a up-to-date contact with them, and that if we do need to utilize their services, what capacity and skills that those organizations might have. But as of right now, we haven't identified a specific role for them because there's not that need, other than if they can help supplement the Sheriff's Department with the shut-in contacts.
Okay. I'd like to see us think like way outside the box with the utilization of that group. Specifically, the Sheriff's Department, for example, and while I am grateful for the desk taking calls for wellness checks and what have you, I have concern that visibility missions for uniformed officers is probably a higher priority, perhaps, at times than needing to call and do a welfare check, perhaps on someone. And I almost wonder if CERT could be utilized, understanding that some of the CERT members also are collaterally volunteers at the station. But as the captain alluded to a little bit earlier, a lot of our volunteers happen to fall into that at-risk category. So I would almost wonder if we could leverage them to be able to activate that CERT team in conjunction with either the city or with the Sheriff's Department to be able to be referred to do wellness calls on those folks and be able to call from their home, whether they FaceTime or call or whatever the case may be. But I think that would offset having to send a deputy out to do a door-to-door, which would mitigate an exposure opportunity. And I think it'd be done safely. And I think it gives purpose and value to those members. So one idea.
Yeah. And maybe Andy, did you get a chance to talk to Larry today?
Yeah. I haven't talked to Larry about that, but that is a component of our volunteer visits, is the callbacks and the volunteers doing those. So between Monique and the volunteers that are working, that's one of the contacts, realizing that home visits are a time-consuming thing.
Okay, all right. So could we potentially bring the CERT folks into that fold to help?
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool, awesome.
Good idea.
Thank you, sir. Another thing that is concerning is when you go out on a Saturday or Sunday around town, or when I bump into some folks trying to go to the market, is sometimes there's a line. If you've seen the line at Costco, for example, where I've seen some of our neighbors going out, it's a very long line. And I have concerns regarding the homeless population in addition to the line. And we talked about this before. And so when I brought this up last week, the county is looking at doing things to address homelessness related to this, to approach it from the angle that the homeless could potentially be folks who are either vulnerable to exposure, or potentially, my concern is somebody panhandling in a line with residents, and God forbid that person's infected, and people are exposed, be it through secretion, cough, sneeze, whatever. So have we given any thought with regards to the discussion of either contacting the San Gabriel Valley roving shelter that typically does their gig over at Holy Name of Mary, and inquiring if the church would be willing to reestablish a shelter there to be able to address these people who we have living in their vehicles? Have we given any thought or consideration to that?
Yeah, we did reach out to the regional homeless organization. I think Brad and Ann, our coordinator, and I think there are 3 shelters right now. The closest one is Duarte, is it? Yeah, Duarte. So we have reached out to them, and we're going to continue to reach out to see if we can expand that network. We're working hand in hand with LASA and the other homeless outreach organizations. We don't have anything formulative right now, but that's something that is definitely on our radar.
All right. So we're not, at this point, we're not doing any outreach to those folks, but you're coordinating a plan with LASA.
Correct.
All right. The meals piece of this, I know there was discussion in coordinating with the school district additional meals. Where are we at with that? Was there any success?
Hector, do you have anything further on that?
No, I don't have any update on that. I know that the district is serving breakfast and lunches, and it's supposed to be for folks who are of a certain income. That's the latest we heard. We've not heard back with regards to expanding that program to be served for any other population except for the children that are fall within those categories.
Okay, thank you. I know I'd sent an email. I'm just curious if we've heard anything back from the grocers. There's a number of people in this community, including everybody in the room here right now, and people at home that are first responders, and I don't mean police officers and firefighters, but I mean city staff. We have a lot of government, and we have a lot of people who are doctors, nurses, and other services. Other cities have allowed those people working in active government right now to have special hours to be able to fulfill their grocery needs when they may not be able to get there because of the demands of their job. Have we been able to identify any grocers that are willing to do that?
Yeah, when we did our survey today of all the grocery stores, that was one of the specific questions we asked of them. And again, Hector, if you can respond to what we found out.
So we contacted all the food vendors today on logistics, and none of them are providing special accommodations for first responders, public safety in terms of operational hours. And we did not gather any info regarding that, any type of volunteer work or service delivery to those who may need it.
Can you please email me a list of the contacts? I'd like to personally reach out to each one of those locations and have a discussion with them, or set up a conference call. Logistically, have we acquired eye protection, gloves, and put in a request for N95 masks for any of the specific staff that potentially could be in a position to need those?
No, I believe that, maybe Sherry, if you could respond to this from an operations standpoint, that we do have some PPE as far as the masks on staff, but we haven't requested any additional supplies. Sherry, can you respond to that?
Good evening. Yes, our crews do have personal protective equipment in their vehicles, and we are ready. They are supplied with masks, and including masks and gloves, and actually Tyvek suits. So,
well, a step ahead. Very cool. So, question with regards to finance and recovery. I know I brought this up at a high level at the last council meeting. So one example of that would be I went to one of the highest performing restaurants in sales tax in the city over the last week, and spoke with the manager who said that particular establishment, once we started all of this, saw a 25% reduction in patronage, and once we shut down in-room dining, they saw a 50% reduction in patronage. So sales. So bottom line is, I'm concerned with regards to sales tax, and I'm concerned, and frankly, the only reason I supported the light synchronization project earlier is because there was a match and that seemed well funded. But I do have concerns as we approach the budget as it relates to the TOT and as it relates to sales tax and the long-term recovery implications in this budget and in the budgets to come. As I think once the numbers start flowing into this, I think it's going to be catastrophic. And frankly, we may be, I hate to say it, begging for a hotel. So, well, not right now, obviously, but maybe when this is all over. So my question is, where are we at with any projection modeling as it relates to the finance aspect of this when we come into the next 3 meetings and we start talking about the budget? Do we have a realistic sense of, or at least is best a sense based off of the trending that we can best get from HDL or from whomever with regards to sales tax and TOT?
Yeah, we've started doing that modeling. In fact, we've got some information we have a consultant, HDL, that does our tax projections for us. We've gotten some information from them within the last several days regarding their property tax projections. We have a meeting with them, I think within a week or so, or a couple weeks, on the sales tax side of it. We've been contacting the hotels on a daily basis to find out what their occupancy levels are, so that we can kind of try and project out what the TOT impacts might be. So we are working on that modeling, and believe me, we share your concerns that this is going to be very significant, not only for our current fiscal year, but projecting out. The difficulty is that we don't know the length of the impacts of this. So I think when we do our modeling, we're going to have to project it out at the more dire projections. But from what we're understanding from a hotel standpoint, most hotel occupancies for the last week or so have been less than 50% capacity, and will probably continue to reduce. And so, yeah, we have started to do that modeling.
All right. As it relates to that, a small business reached out to me since the last special meeting we had, and I had to link them up with the Small Business Administration and referred them to the disaster loans that are being put out there and available. I have serious concerns for some of those businesses, and I really hope, and I don't know whether it's the Chamber of Commerce that could push out more specific information to the local businesses in whatever capacity that they're functioning right now, so that these people have linkage to the loans and anything else that they need to do. It is heartbreaking to know that certain establishments and businesses here have laid off damn near everybody that works for them. And these are people we know. I mean, it's very sad. Situational awareness, and I've seen the updates that have been coming through. I think it's important for the council to be able to get all the information. I have not seen anything coming from the county as it relates to, although I know because of my other hat, that there are phone calls for local elected officials that are occurring. And I don't think that the council has been getting, and correct me if I'm wrong, any of my colleagues, but I don't think we've been getting the information with regards to the conference calls that are occurring.
I have.
Okay, the mayor has. Okay. I don't think the rest.
Because they're mostly the mayor's calls.
Okay.
Most of them are generated, at least by Garcetti, and they do.
Yeah, the city, staff has been participating in all those teleconferencing calls that we've been, for example, today there were two. I participated, one with the sheriff for city managers, and there was a health department call that staff participated in this afternoon at 2:30. But if you want us to provide you with that information on those teleconferences, we can do that as well.
Yeah,
staff is monitoring those.
All right, I think it would be helpful for the council to have an idea of what's going on, especially as it relates to surge plans for the hospitals, especially since we have one here, and that could actually impact the ability. Also, for the operational area with the Pomona Sheraton now online as a...
Apparently not.
Well, so I'll stand corrected for the next 48 hours, but if I had an hourglass, perhaps that'll pan out. But the bottom line is that is something, and I had the opportunity, and just for situational awareness, I had the opportunity, so residents had voiced concerns regarding this lab in San Dimas 2 Saturdays ago. So I had the opportunity to reach out and make the connection, and ultimately was able to introduce that lab to the county, who the supervisor announced, the company Curative, that is currently working with LA County Fire and the Sheriff's Department to provide these tests, and the county as a whole. So I actually had the opportunity to go tour that lab last Friday. I think it's important for the council to be aware of the things that are going on as it relates to the efforts behind this effort for the entire county, as this particular lab, as it ramps up production. I think it's just important because it's part of the county effort to be able to try and test part of this. I don't know if any of the other pharmaceutical or biopharm companies that we have are a part of this effort. I'd be curious if they are, at least for situational awareness, maybe not for public disclosure, but at least for the council to be aware of what's occurring. So I don't know if we can do a little outreach on that. And lastly, the continuity of operations plan is a separate thing from the continuity of government. The continuity of government document, 24 years old. I appreciate you digging it up. Are we going to revisit this document and update it?
We reviewed it today, and there's only a few minor tweakings to it. It still conforms with what the current, even though it is, you're right, it is 24 years old, but it actually still conforms with what the state requirements are. We just need to change some of the nomenclature for some of the staffing, but it still is a valid document at this point. But we will be revisiting that, and we also will be looking at the continuity of operations. We've got a model that we're looking at to update our current continuity of operations plan.
Can we look at, or could you pull a couple of the continuity government plans for some of the surrounding cities? The reason I ask is, for example, in the succession, I don't have any issue with that, but in other documents I've seen, if there's an issue with the governing body that occurs, this plan looks like it says we're going to either have the chairman of the board of supervisors or perhaps the mayor of a county within 150 miles fill in or appoint. And there's other continuity of government plans that I've seen that allow the governing body to make an appointment. And that might be more in line maybe with what we could do here.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that. We did have our Area D coordinator review the plan, and so she gave us some advice that said, this looks like it's, in conformance, but it probably could be updated.
Okay, all right. And last thing is the continuity of operations plan. It concerns me, which is precisely why we should flush out this exercise, that if we lose an employee, and I understand we're a small city, but if we lose an employee, we lose service. And I worry if John, God forbid, he gets the flu, or if Deborah or if anybody here, I think every employee here is valuable. But I also think we need to cross-train as best we can so that we can continue to deliver those services to the community. So I hope when we flush this plan out, that we are looking for not redundancy, but perhaps contingency, so that we can be able to address those pieces. And I know most of the directors have assistants or second up direct reports, but it does hurt to know if we lose one person, I mean, we're out of service to the community. Thank you.
Any other questions of? No. Okay, then we'll move on to oral communications. This is the second opportunity for oral communications. If anybody would like to call in, now is the time. We would accept your calls. And while we're finding out if anybody is going to call in, okay, somebody called. Good.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, call in. Go ahead.
Sure, okay. Hi, sorry I couldn't be there tonight. This is Sean from Villa Verde. I just wanted to bring to the council's attention today, as I was going to an appointment around 11-ish, there was a barrier on Tonovich Trail going down San Dimas Avenue. At around 12 p.m., the same barrier was up. Right around dinner time, 4 or 5-ish, that barrier had been taken down, and there was cars lined at the primary parking space on Tonovich Trail. So I just kind of wanted to bring that to the attention of the council as well as Captain Berg. What I would like to also bring to the attention of the council is a couple of bills in Sacramento. I have heard some planning for some committee hearings on these bills somewhere in April. One of them you probably know already, which is a incarnation of SB 50. So I'll list these bills. One of them is AB 1905. This is the Housing and Homeless Response Fund. The next one is Scott Wiener's SB 902, Planning and Housing. This 9, the residential property warehousing. Next one is AB 3300, homelessness grant funds. And then the last one is, of course, another one of Scott Wiener's bill, SB 899, planning and zoning, housing development, nonprofit hospitals or religious institutions. So I will email these bills to the council, and we'll give like a brief description of them, but I would really like the council to look into these bills because they have to do with housing, planning, zoning, as well as homelessness. And I yield back the balance of my time. Y'all have a wonderful evening, and be well. Bye.
Thank you. Do we have any other lines calls in the queue? City Manager, do you have anything to add in this oral communications period?
Mr. Mayor, there's 4 more calls, I think.
Okay. Well, we can take them when they come.
Hello?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hi, this is Gary.
Hello, Gary.
Hi, how are you tonight?
You're on the air. We're listening.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that somebody is watching you tonight. No, actually, I had a comment to make, basically directed towards the city manager and the update press releases. I know a couple of council members already commented on it, but I wanted to also how well that is being done, and all the information is something that I feel the whole community should know about. And I don't know, Ken, you can go ahead and let people know how to be a part of that. I know I get it by email, so there might be other people that might want to receive that by email. But my question tonight is, has anybody contact San Dimas Hospital, see what their procedures during this time?
Yes, actually, we've been in contact with San Dimas Community Hospital as well as Pomona Valley Hospital, just to make contact with them and to understand what their contingency operations are. And so we are keeping contact with them and let them know, and to let them know if there's any significant changes in their operations, that they can contact us so we can push that information out to the community.
Can you put out the current information?
Well, it's really just, you know, a lot of it is their internal operations and procedures, but what we're really interested in is if they get into a surge capacity situation or doing some kind of, you know, outdoor operations, that we want to know that so we can put that out to the community. But right now, they're basically, you know, just ramping up for an increase in volume is really the basic information we're getting from them.
All right, thank you very much. And again, thank you for the emails.
Thank you.
Thank you for your call. Any other callers interested in?
John says 3 more, Mayor.
Okay, good.
Good evening. You're live.
Good evening. Thank you. Good evening, city staff, city council, and Mayor Morris. Mayor Morris, Susan and I wanted to be there tonight to thank you for your 40 years of service. It's remarkable. You've made our community a better place. Councilperson, Mayor-elect Emmett Badar has some big shoes to fill, but I think he's going to do great. So thank you very much for your 40 years of service. As I said, you've made our community a great place.
Thank you very much. I appreciate those words.
Thank you.
Good evening. You're live.
Hi, good evening, gentlemen, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry. I don't know if this is more of a question or a statement, but as far as wellness checks go, I am more than willing to volunteer my time for that, as far as doing FaceTime or just regular calls, anything like that. I was also actually thinking of starting a fundraiser to get essential items for people, such as, you know, denture creams or clothing, any type of things like that. And I was wondering if you guys are providing anything like that, or if I actually can volunteer.
Yeah, I think, I really appreciate that volunteerism initiative. So if you can, trying to think of the best way to get the information from you. Actually, why don't you give me, I'll give you my phone number, give me a call tomorrow, and then I can put you in contact with our volunteer coordinator. So my my direct line is 909-394-6214.
Okay, I'm going to need to write this down.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Okay, it is 909?
909-394-6214.
394. 14.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank
So
you so
call me
much.
tomorrow, and then I'll redirect you to the right person.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for calling.
All right, bye.
That's all, Mr.
That's all? Okay, that clears the queue. So, city manager.
Yeah, the only other thing that and one of the callers prompted me to remember this, that one of the initiatives that the League of California Cities has undertaken over the last several days is to collect a list of statutory requirements that may be burdensome to public agencies, cities, because of, redirecting our focus on emergency operations, and because of, the time it would take us to do some things. And so the league has actually contacted the legislature with a list of some of those statutes, and some of those would include relief from the 10-day requirement for Public Records Act requests, the requirement for filing of Form 700s by elected officials, the shot clock having to do with telecommunications applications, the time frame regarding ADU applications, and there's probably about a dozen that the league has identified getting information from cities. So they are actually conveying that to the legislature and hoping that there might be some legislation that might provide us with some of that relief, so that we're not under the statutory requirements that we currently are under, that right now some of these agencies don't have the ability to give us relief for those. So that is something that we are actually working with the league on, and we'll see where that goes.
Thank you. City Attorney?
Nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Members of the council, anybody attended a meeting at the expense of the city since we last reported? Hearing nobody report, we'll move on to individual members' comments and updates. And we'll start with the people on the telephone. Emmett, would you have any comments or updates?
No, sorry I couldn't be there, but it sounds like you guys got it pretty well squared away. This is not really, by the way, we just lost input, but the reality is that this is a very fluid situation, and I want to thank the staff for staying up on it, and Ryan's for the ability to pass on what's coming back from the sheriff and the county, and everybody good luck.
Thank you. John, you have any comments?
Just the same as what Emmett and others have said. Thank you to the staff and the Sheriff's Department for everything you guys are doing. I know you guys are working really hard. Other than that, also, I don't know, Kurt, are you going to be at the next meeting when we do the swearing in and everything?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll save some comments for them, but I'll say in advance, thanks for your service, and I think you've been good for the city for all these years. And other than that, nothing else, so thanks.
Okay, thank you. Ryan?
All right. John, I hear congratulations is in order, so congrats. And then I wanted to just acknowledge a couple things. Number one is for the people at home, and as you're watching, first I wanted to thank the sheriff. The sheriff has demonstrated some interesting leadership and positive leadership as it relates to the response. The Sheriff's Department has deployed more resources to the field from non-essential personnel as they're well, they're essential, but they're now redeployed to be more essential perhaps than maybe where they were previously. And I think that has shown good leadership in terms of redeploying the resources where we need them, and that's keeping our community safe. The sheriff was also very forward-thinking and being able to try and bring on testing to those who are servicing our communities right now in that time of need. And very quickly, the board, who was already working on testing, was on board with that. And so I want to thank Sheriff Villanueva, I want to thank Supervisor Barger, Supervisor Solis, and the others for everything that they're doing countywide for all of us. For those that may know or I've communicated with, my day job right now, I'm working at the County Emergency Operations Center. And I have to tell you that there are a whole lot of people that are working tirelessly to be able to try and get us back to normal. And there's a tremendous effort, people who both live in this community, people that are working in this community, that are working on this, and people elsewhere. So I thank everybody that is doing their part to try and keep this as best contained as we can until we either find a vaccine or we let it fizzle out for the time being. One thing as it relates to the video, we're getting better and better at our technology, and so my challenge of the week, I guess, would be maybe we could figure out how to, and I haven't seen what's streaming right now, but perhaps we could figure out how to put John and Emmett's photos up or have our photos queued so that when they're speaking we could transition to that. A little production value, but I think a picture's worth a million words, and make sure it's a current Emmett photo, please, not your first election one. Let's get our current photo. And but in all seriousness, it would be nice to see if we could get something going. Also, I don't anticipate, and to a comment the mayor made earlier, this probably is not going to resolve in the next 2 weeks. This format probably is going to be more common, at least in the next 30 to 60 days, I would guess. So I don't know if it's worth looking into deploying Skype for business or looking into WebEx or Zoom products, and perhaps getting council or having a cadre of Surface pros that have the ability to do video conferencing. And if we could look at doing that, if the council is going to be telecommuting in the future, having a county device, or not a county, a city device, that we could go ahead and issue to the council members. I think one, they could get their packets on there probably a little bit easier, and we wouldn't have to keep killing trees. And two is, it may take some training with council to walk through the steps with John, but it may help so that we could see each other. And even if one of us telecommuted and we just put it on that screen, we could at least see them as if they were in the room. So if we could look into that, it looks like John's nodding yes. I appreciate that. And last two things. This very much is what I'm told anyways, is similar to the Spanish flu prohibition thing. I mean, it's pretty wild. I want to thank all of the businesses that are abiding by the orders of the county health officer. I understand it's difficult. I want to thank all of our residents that are also abiding by those orders, being respectable to each other, being patient. I know it's not difficult, and I know people are getting stir crazy, and I know some people are, figuring out what being home and married is like. And some people are figuring out what it's like not to be at home and trying to stay married, like in my case. So nevertheless, thank you to everyone in San Dimas. And lastly, thank you, staff, a lot, because I understand that some cities are choosing to send the majority of their staff home and having them telecommute and damn near taking a hit in terms of the optics and the service that's being rendered to the community. I think we're a resilient community. I think we're committed to designating or delivering service as best we can when we can. And as Ken said earlier, everyone here provides an essential service. And even though you may not be doing the job that you were doing 3 weeks ago, maybe you're finding yourself doing something different, it's important to this city. And so I am personally grateful for each and every one of you that comes here, and know that Ken has my full support, and all of you have my full support. Should you get to a position where you feel that you are ill, at risk, or otherwise, please bring it to Ken's attention and we'll address it accordingly. But as I alluded to earlier, I too work in government, and I too am out every day doing double duty to make this work too. So I'm with you, and I appreciate you coming in for all the work you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, the only thing I want to say is that even though the city hall is closed, staff is still here working, and if you have any questions, feel free to phone the city hall and you'll be able to speak to someone. So it's not like we're invisible. Even though you can't come in, you can speak to someone and they can give you the information that you need. Stay strong and stay safe and stay healthy, and bless you all.
Thank you. Well, this is the last city council meeting that I am going to adjourn. So I do have a couple of just brief comments. First, I would like to say I got into this 24 years ago when Dennis nominated me to be appointed the mayor after Terry DeVoe retired or resigned. And Dennis, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I hope I haven't disappointed you. John also supported me, and I've been doing this for 24 years. I just happen to be thinking, in that time, there have only been 6 city councilmen. Me and six city councilmen. The 4 who are here now, Sandy and Jeff. So it's been a long time of, I think, a lot of progress, and a lot of people doing a lot of good things. There have only been 3 city managers during that time: Don Prine, Blaine Michaelis, and our present city manager, Ken. And I think all of the people that I have been involved with in the city government, including the city staff, over the years, we've had a lot of people that made a lot of contributions to the community. And I think we went through some challenging times, and things worked out okay, and we went through some very good times where we had the opportunity to make some real progress in the community. Financially, we were able to do things. That may have turned around really dramatically. So I believe that under the best of circumstances, the next few years are going to be very difficult financially. It won't be just this year, it'll be the next year. It's been a long time since we've had a recession. A recession may follow this disaster. So I'd just like to say to the citizens of the community, your city council members are going to be working real hard on your behalf. The city staff is going to be working real hard on your behalf, but it may be very difficult. And I think that you should recognize they are going to be in difficult times and cut them a little slack if you think things are not being done exactly the way you would like. Because we're probably going to be in a period of time for this year or the next year or two where it's not going to be adding programs, it's going to be contracting programs. It's difficult. The city's margin is extremely thin. This loss of sales tax that we're going to lose now probably puts us down to the point where we will effectively lose the operating surplus, or some call something other than a surplus, but it's just an operating surplus, because if you get to below $5 or $6 or $7 million in reserves, you don't have enough money to cover the ebb and flow of the money coming in, because it doesn't all come in at one time. So I think it's going to be difficult. And I think that the people who are going to be working on it, I have every confidence as a resident of the community, they're going to be doing the best job they can, but it's going to be tough. The city staff is going to face challenges that we haven't faced for a while. And I think we need to recognize that we have good people in place and they're going to do a good job, but it's going to be difficult. So, you know, in a way, it's always like you look back and you say, those were the good old days, but when you're living through them, they don't always seem like the good old days. So I just commend all of you to do the best you can, and hang on, but it's going to be tough. And I very much appreciate all of the people who have supported me over the years and have permitted me to do this job in my hometown for this amount of time, and have given me really a lot of support. And I just want everybody who happens to be listening or hear about it to know how much I do really appreciate it. And with that, we're going to adjourn to the meeting at 7 p.m. on April 14th. That will be for the swearing in of the new city council members, and the new council will start and probably have on that day a full plate. So thank you all very much. We are adjourned.